Hey, welcome to the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute with your host, the alchemist of Indiana's Black Forest, Alan Bishop. Hey, this channel is all about home distilling and legal distilling. If you've got questions, reach out to us in the comments below, social media, or via bishopshomegrown@gmail.com. And don't forget to check out thealchemistcabinet.com. Hey guys, back again with another One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute Talking Head video. So, we're just going to jump into a couple questions here. I think I have two new ones here. One is from my buddy Bob down in Costa Rica. I need to talk to you on the phone sometime, Bob. I saw you called a couple times, and I've been so damn busy I just haven't had a chance to get back with you, brother. But I do appreciate our conversations and would love to talk to you again here shortly. So, hey, Alan, really enjoying both of your books. Appreciate that, man. And also for anybody who doesn't have the Alchemist Cabinet Volume 1 Philosophy or Volume 2, which I can't remember what the hell I called it. Those are available at thealchemistcabinet.com in the warehouse section, and you can order those and I can sign them and send them to you. Sometimes it does take a little while because we have to order from the printer, they get shipped here, then I sign them, then we send them to you. Sometimes that printer's not real fast, unfortunately, and in this day and age post-COVID, it seems like everything is impossible to get in any modicum of decent time, but that's a story for another time. So looking forward to number 3, which I'm working on now. My question is about distilling a wash that has residual sugar in it. Does the sugar come through either in the stripping run or the spirit run or both? Or does it remain in the boiler? If the sugars do come through in either run, are they in one particular fraction of the cuts or another? Best, Bob in Costa Rica. So no, sugar does not distill across. It does stay within the still and stay within the wash and stay within the mash, just as starch does. This is actually one of the reasons why a lot of the old pre-pro distillers would sour mash some portion of their corn for whiskey, because they didn't have greatly efficient fermentations to start with, so not all the starch was converted, and so running that through the still, of course, helps break down the starch that much more, and then they could recycle some of that mash, turn it into sugar, and then redistill it. But no, the sugar itself, regardless of what kind of base that you have, it does not distill over ever. If you detect sweetness, quote unquote, in a spirit, it has nothing to do with there being sugar in it unless sugar was added post distillation, but has everything to do with ingredients or the perception of sweetness in the part of your tongue and brain that is being activated by the particular flavors that are there. But the sugar itself always remains behind. Now, aromatic precursors from sugar, different types of sugar can come across. So let's say, for example, you're using molasses or you're using maple syrup, and some of that, sugar got left behind, etc., never got converted by the yeast and all that fun stuff. You can pull off some of the aromatic principles of it. The same thing with the starch. So if you had corn whiskey that you start off at a 1075 mash bill, finish at a 1010, there's still some starch laying around in there for sure, and some sugar laying around in there before for sure, and you will pull some of those aromatic precursors off that way. As far as the sweetness though, and if you're looking for sweetness, there are a number of things. I had something crawling on me. There's a wolf spider out here that likes to hang out, and he travels with me, jumps on my shirt, goes in the house. Somehow he gets back out here. He goes to the basement with me. I don't mind him. I don't really want him on my skin, as it were, but he does it quite often to me. Anyway, so one of the things that you can use if you want some sweetness in your spirit, or you want to change the body of the spirit in particular, or you want the perception of sweetness, one of the biggest cheats in distilling in general is licorice root. Licorice root doesn't really taste like licorice at all. It is a much more earthy, sort of stevia-like experience. If you take a piece of licorice root and put it on your tongue, the alpha amylase in your mouth and your saliva will actually start to break that licorice root down, and you'll get this kind of creamy, sweet, almost artificial sweetener sort of flavor. I won't tell you that sweetener flavor necessarily comes across, but there is an aspect of licorice root that lends a sort of sweetness to a spirit, as it were, and definitely lends mouthfeel to a spirit. You can also throw a little bit of licorice root into a whiskey. Now, I would not advocate this legally in a distillery unless you're going to call it a distilled spirit specialty, get a recipe approved for it, etc. But at home, a little bit of licorice root and sugar shine, so 1 pound per gallon of sugar, 1 pound per gallon of grain, etc., etc., can really improve the mouthfeel quite a bit, and the quote-unquote smoothness factor. I hate that word, but in this case it seems to work. It'll kind of smooth out your liquor a little bit, make it a little less hot, a little less aggressive, and a little more fulfilling on the mouthfeel. Oats are the same way. Oats can give a kind of sweetness to a spirit. They also add a lot of mouthfeel to it. You guys have heard me rant on and on and on about how much I love oats and distillation, so bear that in mind. So hope that answered your question, Bob. Reach out to me with any more that you have, and let's see if I've got yet another question here maybe. So all right, so this one is from Andrew. Hello, first of all, I want to say thank you for what you do and all the information you share. It is amazing and truly appreciated. I appreciate that, man. Thank you for letting me know that. I recently attempted a smoked apple brandy, the process being 5 gallons of apple cider with about 5 pounds of diced apples that smoked with apple wood on my charcoal grill. I was a bit disappointed with the aroma of the smoked apple when I put it in the fermenter. More cigarette smoke than sweet apple wood, but that is likely due to excess smoke from the charcoal. I stripped just over a gallon of low wines at 30 ABV and did a spirit run making cuts and ended up with just under a liter of final product. I know it's a small amount, but it was just a test. The issue is, I did not get much smoke flavor into the distillate. Though the fermented cider and low wines were very smoky smelling, I was wondering if you had any tips on how to retain that smoky flavor and bring it over during distillation. I know that flavor hides in the tails, so how do I capture that without getting too funky from the tails? Thanks so much for your time and help, Andrew in Toronto, Canada. So first of all, so the disappointment with the aroma of the smoked apple when you put it in the fermenter, more cigarette smoke than sweet apple wood. Definitely smoking on the grill, there's nothing wrong with that, but if you can find like a cold smoker, or like the little, if you go back through my videos, you'll see where I smoked a bad motivator barrel, one of those type smokers, a pellet smoker, you'll get a lot better aroma that's true to the type of wood that you're using than that sort of, you know, ashtray sort of smell that you're talking about for sure. As far as the amount of smoke that ended up in your finished product, a couple things come to mind. So I like apple smoke, but I like apple smoke because it's a very, very light smoke. You have to look for it or really pump the smoke to it. You know, you can get heavier results from things like hickory, sphagnum moss, or peat moss, etc. But definitely the apple's always going to stay a little bit more on the light side of that smoky character that you're looking for. So bear that in mind too. And you are correct. The smoke seems to basically adhere more to the water molecules than the alcohol, so it tends to come over a little bit more in the tails. Part of what I would suggest is repeating the experiment over and over again and saving your tails and rerunning your tails with your low wines in every doubling distillation that you do. So on your doubling run, add your tails back to it. You'll start to build that up over time. Now with agave, you can cheat a little bit because you can drop fairly far into your tails and still have pretty good alcohol in there and really reach the point where the smoke saturation is actually part of the alcohol that you want to keep, and it gives a lot of character to your particular spirit. With apples, the real trick, like I said, is keep rerunning those tails. A couple of other things to think about there is maybe instead of adding the apples to your mash. So what I typically do when I make a smoked apple brandy like that is I will take the apples and I will smoke them, and then I'll put them into a gin basket, right? Either as wet apples that have been smoked or even dried apples that have been smoked. And I seem to get a lot more flavor off the smoke and the apples in the gin basket than I do if I smoke the apples and put them in the mash, because you're losing some of that volatility during fermentation, right? You have several days of fermentation, CO2 bubbling through that stuff, you're driving off volatility, and smoke is definitely a phenolic character that is volatile and easy to lose as far as fermentation goes. The other thing you could think about doing is maybe smoking a barrel like I did with the Bad Mo and then putting the apple into that, or even buying a little cocktail smoker kit, whatever jars or bottles you're going to use, fill those up with your smoke and then fill that up with the actual spirit so that it's imbued kind of like a cocktail with that smoke. There's nothing wrong with that, and it works extremely, extremely well. The best experiences I've had so far have been smoking the bottles or the jars, as well as the gin basket method. The most intense smoke I've found so far, I haven't had a chance to get a hold of any Scottish peat, which I would really like to get some Isla peat in particular. If I could find somewhere I could get that for a decent price, or if I was lucky enough to have a viewer out there that saw this and wanted to send me some, listen, I'm not going to complain about it, guys. I will use it 1,000,000% in an apple brandy. But I did get a hold of some Irish peat one time, and I peat smoked some apples, and I had a bottle of Lefroy because I really love Lefroy. Even the cheaper expressions I love. I don't care. I just love that smokiness, but get a little wild when I drink Lefroy, so I don't drink it very often. Anyways, I had an empty bottle of Lefroy, and I made my smoked apple brandy, and the idea behind it was because since, you know, northern France makes Calvados, and, you know, Scotland is known for, you know, heavily peat smoked whiskeys, even though I was using, you know, Irish peat, made a little French joke and we called it Le Frog. So we took the Lefroy label, marked that out with a permanent marker, and wrote Le Frog. So by far one of my favorite experiments and one that I really love. But I hope that helped you out. And guys, if you all have questions, reach out to me, bishopshomegrown@gmail.com, social media and or YouTube comments below. If I don't get back to you, keep the questions coming. I will see them eventually. I'm not the best at this in the world. And to be honest, this summer I've had a little bit of a hard time keeping up because I've had so much going on between, let's just say I'm working on multiple legal distilling projects as we speak, multiple of them that are all kind of getting going at the same time. And I grew too big of a fucking garden, and you know, fat. I don't have any help with it other than my wife helping process once I get stuff in. So between that and the podcasts, all the podcasts that I do, I've been a little swamped this summer. Tell you what, I'm looking forward to, I love summer, I love spring. I'm looking forward to seeing all this green shit back here turning beautiful October rust. I'm looking for frost on the pumpkin because it's time for Dickie Duncan. I'm looking forward to fall, and I don't care this winter if it snows 12 feet. I don't care. I'll shut down and work on stuff like this and take naps, and it'll be well earned. So, alright guys, love y'all. Later.